have been sent the approved, quote unquote, approved structure of the committee uh, in early April. Some have gotten iterations earlier than that as well. And there are some issues that I think might need to be addressed. So I thought I'd do that at this particular point so we can, if not make decisions on it, can be ready to make decisions the next time we talk. Now, I have the document open in front of me. I know that I sent it to each of you, and you may not have it in front of me, so I'll go through the highlights. First off, the city, to my understanding, has opened up a marketing funds account separate for the marketing funds and set it up so that checks can be written out of the account. And Ella, the city manager, will be responsible to manage it. The mayor appointed, in this case, it was Bill Oliver to have check signing authority for the city council. And Holly, did you appoint anybody else, or was it just Bill?
No, it's just Bill and I.
Just Bill and Holly. Okay, I knew there was a second person.
Yes.
Now, for those of you that do not know me, again, my name is Bob O'Keefe. I've owned a home here going on 3 years. I've lived here full-time since the end of May when I retired. And I was asked by the former mayor to chair this committee. Now, my background is probably important that some of you know, do I have any qualifications? My background was in Fortune 500 company management with Johnson & Johnson, Hanes Knitwear, International Playtex, and my last quote unquote big corporate job was as vice president and corporate officer for the Foster Grant Sunglass Company. I also was an entrepreneur and ran my own small business. And then when all my kids got out of the house to go away to college and I decided to have a career change, I decided to become a marketing educator. Now, what I was doing, getting rid of teenagers out of the house and inheriting 150 every single day, I don't know what I was thinking, but I taught marketing for 16 years. So it's not just that I'm a teacher. I was actually teaching what I had been doing for almost 30 years. So if anybody has any questions about me and my background, I'd be happy to entertain those at another time. I just want you to know that I kind of know what I'm doing. Now, the next thing was we talked about who's going to be part of the committee. Well, it was basically determined not by me, but in discussion at meetings, that obviously the city council has to be involved and that the property owners association should be involved and the country club should be involved and the timeshares organization should be involved because they are all critical parts of Sky Valley. And I think in my discussion with several of you, we talked about we want to have this be a holistic approach to marketing Sky Valley. And you are all, as these organizations, very important to that. And yet we're separate, but we can't be separate at the same time because when people come to Sky Valley, they don't come down Sky Valley Drive and look and say, oh, well, that building over there looks really good and that belongs to so-and-so and that one doesn't look real good, but we can't count that because that doesn't belong. We are holistic in our image to potential residents and visitors and so on and so forth. So we really need to act as one for the purpose of this committee. Now, the committee members need to agree to the Sky Valley Ethics Ordinance, and we will need to be given a copy of the city's comprehensive plan, which Miss Mayor, Madam Mayor, or Ella, if you could get copies of those sent to at least the committee members, because I don't even have copies of those at this particular point in time, so that we're acting within the confines of all the laws that Holly had mentioned early in the start. Now we're asking that all the representatives be capable and able to act. Now there's a difference between being capable and able. Able means Can you walk, talk, chew gum, and come to the meetings? Capable means, are you able to look at this from a business standpoint, make the decisions that are good for Sky Valley, not only for your own entity, and have an understanding of basic business and perhaps some marketing. So it's not just a musical chairs, let somebody sit in the seat. It really needs to be somebody who's going to be capable of doing and making decisions. Now, with that, we're asking that each representative from their organizations be able to make decisions for their organization. Not that all decisions have to be made on the spot, but they can be able to sit and speak and vote, or whatever we're going to call it, for that organization, and then that would be binding, because we want to be able to move forward with good information from people who have been given the authority to do so. And again, at times there will obviously need to be discussion, kind of go back home and talk to mom and pop if that's necessary, to come back with the opinion of that particular organization.
Bob,
Yes.
can I ask one question? When you say binding, decision of the organization, don't we really mean binding the marketing committee and their funds and, direction and everything? That representative could not do anything other than the funding that let's say the country club has put in. And in other words, I don't want, let's say the marketing committee came up with a great big plan of $50,000. That individual can't bind our organization. Now,
No,
that
no.
individual could bind the $3,000 we put in or whatever.
Exactly. And I'm going to get to that in just a minute. We're
Okay.
obviously not going to be able to spend money that we don't have. And we're going to get to that in a moment. So we're not going to say, hey, Madam Timeshare Representative, we want to spend 50 grand, and are you able to do that? Well, no, if we don't have the money, we can't. And there may be some big enough decisions where we want them to say, hey, go back and test the waters and come back with that. So no, we're not going to spend money that we don't have. And that's going to be one of the next things we're going to talk about. But that person, when they're voting on the marketing committee as a representative of their group, if they're spending what we are allowed to spend and you've given them the authority to make that decision, that's binding to the committee. Nobody can come back and say, oh, well, they didn't have the empowerment to say yes to that particular thing. No, they have to be able to do that, or it's kind of a waste of time and money at this point. Does that clarify it?
Yes, as long as we have that understanding.
Yeah, I just said that we do. Okay, now, marketing, there's many different definitions of marketing, but one comprehensive one that I've enjoyed for many, many years is that marketing is all forms, all processes of designing and developing and distributing and promoting products. Now, we're not going to do a whole lot of designing and developing and distributing products because our product is Sky Valley. What we're probably going to be doing is figuring out ways in which we're going to promote our product. Now, promotion, the definition of that is all forms of communication to your market. In our particular case, it's hopefully going to be to target markets. Hopefully many of you have heard that term before. So I'll continue with the definition. Promoting products to people with similar wants and needs, and who have the willingness and ability to pay for them. So what we're going to want to be doing is being careful about the money that we spend, the message that we develop, the target markets that we actually target, meeting them where they live, so to speak. Well, where do they read? Where do they watch? Where do they social media? And to people that have the willingness and ability to pay for it, because we don't want to spend money throwing it up against the wall. Okay, so with the little money we have and the little money that I expect we're going to have, we have to be very careful, almost scientific, in how we do it. So that has to be kind of in everybody's mind. And keeping in mind that we want to develop a holistic approach that benefits Sky Valley in total, not just this organization or that organization or whatever the case may be. So again, promote us as a whole, to act in the best interest of the entire community. And of course, all of you are, separate organizations or businesses, and many of you are actual businesses. And of course, you're going to market and promote your own business separately, of course. But we're asking for as much as you can to promote us as an entity, as one. Let's put it that way. Okay. Now, I think I'm on the last paragraph. I know I'm paraphrasing the statement here. Like to operate the marketing committee as a company marketing department would operate. Not with little factions, but the opinions from the organization are needed and want to be considered, as well as those of community members. We don't operate in a vacuum. And now, it was stated in here, and this has been gone over many different times, and I know that some people have a problem with this, and we maybe can talk it out or come back with different ideas next time, is that the decision of the marketing committee chairman will be the determining factor. Now, that does not mean that regardless of what everybody else says, Big Bad Bob is going to make the decision, and tough luck for everybody else. My point here is that we should run it like a marketing department. There has to be somebody in charge, or we're going to get nothing done. Maybe you want to call it veto power. I don't know, because I don't know what I'm inheriting. I was asked to do this. It's a volunteer basis. I have background to do it. And as I said to both mayors, if you want me to do it, I'll do it. And if you don't want me to do it, I can walk out the door and be retired again in about 30 seconds. Now that doesn't, and I'm pretty upfront with what I have to say. Let me explain why. Number one, I'm from New York. I'm pretty straightforward. You don't usually have to figure out what I'm thinking, because I will tell you. Number two is, I'm assertive. You don't get to run multi-million-dollar companies and be a fly on the wall. And we can have conversation and so on and so forth, but I think I used an example when I spoke to Howard the other day, that let's say we're in a meeting and we want to spend some money on something, and 3 of the 4 entities want to do something, and I don't want to insult anybody, but say, well, let's run a dog parade and promote that. You know what? In my opinion, that's not marketing for Sky Valley. And there may be some times, because I don't know what I'm inheriting here. So there may be times I'm going to have to say, well, I don't agree with that. We're going to have to table that. And some of you are just going to go ahead and have to agree with it. Now, am I going to say, hey, we're going to spend all this money over here that nobody agrees to? No, because we're going to do what we're going to do for the right reasons, with the right research. And hopefully, as Howard said to me, well, it would be best if you had consensus. Always best if you have consensus. But is it going to be 100% consensus 100% of the time? Probably not. Now, consensus simply means a majority, doesn't mean unanimous. We're probably not going to be unanimous on anything. So I would like to know personally, because I'm putting these shoes on and willing to walk in the woods with this, but I'd like to know what I'm going to be operating here as the chairman. I'm not going to just sit in a chair and be a do-nothing chairman. I said I would do this because I want to put my expertise to use to benefit the community. Now,
Bob,
we don't have to have a discussion about that now. Go ahead, Bill.
I think, the easy way to solve this is when we talk about a holistic plan, we're talking about what you mentioned as well, to promote the whole valley, but it also means there should be an annual plan put together. Here's a list of the things that we, as a committee, recommend that we do, or that you, as a chairman, are recommending
Right.
that we do as a community. And then that plan can get promoted or socialized back to the organizations and make sure everybody is signed off on that. Once that's done, then it becomes fairly easy for you to then make sure that all of that stuff gets executed.
Mhm.
It included in that potentially is a contingency, right? So as other opportunities develop or pop up, there's some money set aside in a contingency, and that's where there might be some discretionary spend
Right.
as new ideas or opportunities are discovered.
Right.
So, to me, the important thing is, let's get an annual plan put together, make sure everybody sees it, is fairly comfortable with it. And once all that approval is done, then you can just rock and roll.
Right, exactly. And as best we could for all parties, we had to cover a lot of information and decisions that we don't even know have to be made yet with this one document. And we've just had our first we're just having our first meeting. So to say that it's absolutely 1000% etched in stone, well, there's certain things that are. We have to operate under the auspices of all the laws and the city ordinances and that type of a thing. But yeah, what you had to say, Bill, and we hadn't gotten to that yet, which is to come up with an annual plan that's holistic, that we think we can afford and we can get behind and go forward. But again, we have a lot of things to do. And yes, what you said is true. Put the plan together, and the plan is going to be based upon what monies do we have. And I want to get into that discussion here in just a few minutes as well. So yes, a holistic plan, it actually says here, a holistic plan developed and presented to all the member organizations, as well as, the city council, of course, is one of the organizations, and then measure it, because we want to know whether we have any success or not. So if anybody has amendments, let's call them that, to this document, maybe we can talk about them, bring them up at the next meeting after we've all had time to think about it, and then incorporate them and move forward.
Bob, this is
Yes.
Ed. One of the
Hey, Ed.
things about a plan, you can't have an evaluation unless you have a plan. You have to have some
Right.
way to measure what you're trying to plan to do.
Exactly.
And with the homeowners association, we have a lot of activities during the year, but we don't commit any funds till we know we actually have it. So we have to have a plan afoot in order to spend any monies.
I understand. We have to have a plan.
Thank
which,
you.
Which is one of the next things I wanted to talk about.
But
The thing
Bob,
that I
to
would
go
like-
back, excuse me
I'm
one
sorry.
minute.
Go ahead.
Bill's comment, I think it's key that we have an annual plan. We have an annual quote unquote budget with a contingency, because we'll have to react. But the stakeholders or the organizations will approve that plan, and then we have our marching orders as a committee, what we're doing in the next year.
Correct.
With the flexibility that we can, adjust as we go, because we just for instance, we have in the last month here, COVID-19, something comes up and that may change drastically your plan. But I think I'm comfortable as long as we have a annual plan that we all approve, and we look at the funding, and then we go from there.
I agree with that.
I think we're all on the same page.
Good.
Okay, now, the thing that I'd like to call upon everybody to do, put your thinking caps on between now and the next meeting, and maybe be able to maybe even submit your ideas beforehand if possible, so we can at least have a discussion at the meeting, is you can't have a plan until you decide what your goals are, which I think Ed just stated that. You can't put a plan together until you know what you want to accomplish. So I'd like everybody to come up with what they think the goals for the marketing committee should be. What are the things we're trying to accomplish for Sky Valley, with which then we can come up with a plan and decide how we're going to spend whatever money we have. And things like, if you talk to almost anybody, everybody's going to have a different idea. well, what do you want Sky Valley to do? Or what should we market in Sky Valley? And they're going to have lots of different ideas. And the one that we hear a lot is, well, we got to get younger people here. Okay, I would agree with that. But that is so general, it doesn't mean anything. So what does that mean? Well, we probably need to take a look at who our current residents are, which I know Bill has done and I've done. You know, the average age of a resident of Sky Valley is about 70 years old. So does that become our primary target market? Probably should be considered, because we obviously know that they already come and buy and spend their money and so on and so forth. But some people say, well, we need to get young families up here. Okay, that's a good idea, but is it feasible? Is that going to be one of our target markets, maybe our secondary target market? If it were me and I was let's say what I was called a middle-aged father, let's say in my 40s, and had young kids going to school, for me, and this is just me, I don't want to put my kids on a bus for an hour each way. So are we really going to get those people? And I'm throwing these out not as what I'm deciding, was I'm saying this is what we have to uncover. The likelihood is probably that we're looking for people that are empty nesters, that maybe not as old as I am. They're not ready to retire yet. Maybe they're going to buy a vacation home or a second home, and then maybe move into it when they finally do retire and come up here full time. But these are the things we have to figure out. So let's come up with some ideas of goals, and then we investigate those goals to see if that's really feasible. Do we really want to do that? Because we may find out that's not our target market at all. And I'll give you an example. Back in the day, I used to work with the Gladiators, the hockey team down in Gwinnett County. And if I said to the average person, who buys hockey tickets? Oh, guys, sports guys. Well, you know what? More than half of their tickets are bought by women. Why? Because they decide how the pocketbook gets open and where the family's going to go. So just the initial response of what makes sense may not actually be the right answer. So all I'm saying is we want to look as much as possible to get the right answers before we start spending money. So long story short, let's come up with some ideas of what we want to try to accomplish by marketing Sky Valley. Now, after that, we're going to need to determine, well, how do we do that? How do we reach these people? And some of that has to do with the money. Now, we had asked in the structure that each organization could, throw in the bin, into the pot, funds so we could actually go forward. Now, I have a report that Ella was good enough to send me quite a while ago on the 3-way and the 2-way marketing budgets. Now, I had to come up to speed on this stuff because I didn't understand what 2-way and 3-way was. 2-way simply means that 2 organizations put in money. 3-way simply means 3 organizations put in money. Now, according to this report, and it is probably a couple of months old, probably the end of the year report, the 3-way was the city and the POA and the club. And it looks like pretty faithful contributions were made on this report from 2015 to 2018. But 2019, the only organization that put any money into the 3-way was the club. They put $1,000 in. Thank you to the club. There was a carryover from 2017. So therefore we had some money to spend, a little bit, about $6,000. And however, the actual expenditures, and Ella, if you could you send this report to each of the members of the marketing committee as well?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay. And then in the actual expenditures for 2019, now we had $6,000 to spend. We had $20,600 of expenses. So according to this, we were in the hole in 2019, over 14 grand. Now, I don't know where that came from, and I certainly hope that I don't have to dig us out of a $15,000 hole. I'm just going to say, whoops, that's not good. So moving forward, we have to like be a little more responsible with what we spend. If we don't have it, we can't spend it. That's my opinion. I don't know if your pocketbooks are different, but if I don't have money in the bank, I'm not going to buy groceries. You can't. Kroger doesn't take promises, and I'm assuming most of us here, our vendors don't either. Now, going on to the two-way marketing budget, that was where just the city and the POA contributed money. No contributions in 2019. Now fortunately, we had carryover of $10,000 from a variety of years, totaled up over the last few years. So we had some money. And then in what we actually spent, we didn't really spend anything except, according to this, the Mountain City billboard for $3,500. So we have a carry forward, if you will, of $6,557 that came from carryover of the two-way joint marketing budget. So from a monetary standpoint, it's almost like we're at zero, okay? Because we spent more than we had for the three-way, and we have $6,500 from the two-way. Now, again, Ella will send this to you so you can peruse it yourself. It even lists the things that money was spent on, so we can think about those going forward. Do we want to do that? Was it successful? Do we want to put our money in that area and going forward? But then the next thing that each of you organizations could conceivably do for the next meeting, if you can etch it in stone, great. If you can, at least we can banter it around. How much money are you willing to throw into the marketing pot? And Ella, I guess I'll ask you, is it necessary to do a three-way and a two-way, or can we just have the one marketing account and who puts
No,
the money in?
and that was the one thing, that's why we set up the marketing account to keep it all separate.
Yeah.
And that's why we just need to know when we start establishing the budget for this new marketing, we need to have the amount that each, participant is going to contribute that, and we will take that amount just like the city. We will take it and cut a check from our general fund to this account because it is a totally separate account. That way we can have true money and know exactly where we stand. Because as you said, like in 2019, the city is not showing as contributing money, but in instance we did because we paid all this forward without any other contributions.
Right.
Except for the
Exactly.
1,000 from the club.
Right. And like you say, looking at this, it doesn't read that way, but
No, it doesn't.
we can
No.
have one pot and then all the contributors, and then you always know on any given moment how much money we have to go forward with. Not it's in this one, it's in that one, it's for this, it's for the other thing. So again, I know we have to make a plan, but it's almost, if you could still have the conversations with your group and come back and say, not that next week you absolutely have to commit to something, but if we don't have money coming in, we might as well just not have another meeting. Because you can't do anything unless you have funds. Now, whether they're promised funds, it's coming in funds, or do we literally have to have an annual plan set out now? Because, ladies and gentlemen, look at it this year. We're like almost halfway through the year already, and we're just having a conversation. So think about that. Again, we don't have to make that decision now, and go forward from there. Okay. The reps that are here at the meeting, or the head barber, as I like to use the phrase, of the organization, are the people that are in this meeting or committed to be on the committee. Are we good with that, so that perhaps at the next city council meeting, they can be approved? Because every member has to be approved. I have to be approved. Well,
Correct.
Bill apparently will be approved because he's on the city council. But Ed and Howard, if you're going to be the rep, or whoever you want to be on the rep, and I think Shelley's not in attendance, is that correct?
That is correct. She's
All right.
wasn't able to attend today,
All right.
so yeah, we'll need to.
She definitely said she wanted to be. I don't know why she's not here. She was very much behind it. So if perhaps you can confirm who your rep is, and then at the next city council meeting, we can all be approved, so then we can, quote unquote, legally all go forward as being approved members. Is that possible?
Yes,
Yes, it will be. Yeah, we should be able to place it on the agenda with the names that we have, unless there's some changes. We can make sure it's on there.
Okay, so on my agenda for this meeting is approved with Holly beforehand, and she sent it out. We've discussed the 2- and 3-way funding. We've discussed the committee structure. As far as future funding goes, yes, can you make a decision? Because there may be some organizations just say, hey, all we can fit in our entire budget, no matter what it is $2,000. Okay. If you need more specific than that, maybe you can give us an idea, because you have your own business, you have your own marketing, and you probably have some fund saying, hey, this is what could be done if other things. Just a ballpark ideas, because we don't want to plan for something that we know we're not going to have the money for. It's like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because we
Correct.
don't want to put a $50,000 marketing plan together and have say, oh no, we can't do any of that. So we would like either a commitment or some kind of a general idea, a ballpark figure of what fits in your organization's budget that could conceivably come to us if we do the right things. Does that make sense?
yes.
I think so. Yeah, because I'm with you. They both go hand in hand, and you can't do one without the other.
Yeah, we can't do one without the other. If all we've got is $6,000, we can spend that, next week.
Yeah, that won't take long.
That won't take long. Talked about approving the representatives of Ella sending out the budget and the necessary paperwork that we do what we're supposed to do. And in addition to trying to come up with a number that you could contribute to really get into what are we trying to achieve? What are the goals? And then from there, we will want to determine how do you meet those goals? Where do we spend the money? What message do we develop? Are we going to come up with a new logo? Do we even need to? Where are we going to quote unquote promote?
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
So one of the things I think would be very helpful, especially since, our attorney has let us know that, there can't be a lot of general input to these committee meetings.
Right.
Everybody that's online can see who the committee members are. And I think it'd be very helpful to hear from all those individuals. Contact the committee member, let them know your ideas, concerns, etc., so that in the next committee meeting, we can bring those to the forefront and work through them.
Okay. Now, if any of you that are tuned in know any of the people, you're close to them, whatever, contact them. If anybody wants to contact me, I'll give you my email. It's Bob_O'Keefe, OKEEF, like Frank E, at bellsouth, one word, .net, not .com, .net. And if you want to just send it to me, I'll summarize them and make it part of our discussions. So with all of that, that was the agenda for me for this particular meeting. I think it's I think it's a lot. I think perhaps, hopefully some of the fog of what the original structure document meant has been clarified, hopefully. If not, let me know. And of the committee members, is there anything else that's on your mind that needs to be addressed? Not that we can make voting on things at this particular point, but we can get it out there and maybe even prepare some stuff for the next meeting. Anyone?
Yeah, I think from a property owner's perspective, what I'm going to do is get it out to all of our board members within the week and try to do a recap of this meeting. And then we have other issues to look at with regard to coronavirus and its impact on our activities beginning next month in May. So we have a lot of work to do over the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Anybody else? All
No,
right.
I'm good. I'm also, willing to, if people want to email me their information, if they want it to come directly to the city, I do not have a problem with that. And then I can disperse it to the members as well. My email address is citymanager@skyvalleyga.com. I'll be glad to disperse the information as well too, if needed.
Now, one thing I do want to get opinions on is, because I think I said to some of you that I'm not a big meeting guy. I mean, meetings are a necessary evil, not something that's a whole lot of fun. And we discussed a lot in this one, but we're still going to be done in a little more than a half an hour, or is that an hour? My eyes are bad. 40
A
minutes.
little over half, yeah.
How often do we want to do this? When should we have our next one?
Well,
How long
Bob,
will it take for you to get your stuff together? Bill?
Bob, I think a couple considerations. Actually, our focus is on the coronavirus right now, and trying to stay safe, etc. So this meeting, would happen online. I'm sure the next one. The other thing is I would say as needed. I mean, to me, the most important thing is to get a general, as you're requested, a general outline of what funds you think might be committed, just some guidance there. You guys start working on a plan, at least if it's an initial draft of based on some of the stuff that some of the items that have worked in the past, some of the targets that you believe are correct. Because the reality is, I think the next steps, where the rubber really hits the road, is when a plan gets put in front of each one of the organizations. So my suggestion for these meetings is as needed, and understanding that we want to try to get to that plan deliverable, as soon as reasonably possible.
Well, I think, Bill, what you said is good and important, because we want to have a plan that achieves the goals, reach the people we need to reach, and only spend what we can spend. And it doesn't have to be tomorrow. Basically, if you look at the 3-way and the 2-way, 2019 was not the most aggressive year. And ladies and gentlemen, if we do nothing, Sky Valley's still going to be here, and Sky Valley's still going to be great. So I would rather us go forward, as Bill said, in prescribed steps and build to a crescendo, because, maybe in 2 years from now, we have the kind of plan we want to execute rolling along as it should be. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, and it's probably not going to be this calendar year of 2020, because we're almost halfway through it. So let's put our thinking caps on. Maybe we send some emails back and forth. I would love to hear by email at least from every organization, so that maybe we can schedule the next meeting and say, hey, we have enough meat to discuss and make decisions on. Because if this is our venue for meeting, it's not even as helpful, let's just put it that way, as an in-person meeting, and we can't do that. So
The other observation I would have, and I would address this to Ed and Howard, what's your budget process? When do you put your budget together for 21? Because you kind of need to know, you need to know an amount for a planning purpose, correct?
It
Correct.
would be best if we could. Because we don't want to plan for stuff we can't afford. And you know your own organizations as to maybe you've already put your fiscal year to bed and you only have this amount of money to spend this year. Well, okay, how about telling us that? So if it's at all possible to give us a number, if it's a ballpark number that, we're at least in the stadium, that would be helpful in us to go forward and start saying, hey, how do we spend that money?
Right. Hey, Ella?
Yes, sir.
Howard's muted.
Mm,
Would love to see if Howard's got any more comments.
I've unmuted him a couple of times. He keeps getting muted for some reason. Okay, try it now, Howard.
All right. Let me just tell you, it's only when you talked about important things did I have buffering and couldn't understand. I take it I can go back and watch this again.
No,
Bob,
no, we will not be putting this out to the public. No.
okay, well, how about a party to the meeting? Bob, the one question when you got buffered was a two-way and three-way. I take it there's carryover monies. Is that where you were going with that? Is that where
Yes.
we are? Okay. And I'd like
Yeah,
to see that, and I take it Ella's going to send us that. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then, and I'm trying to think of my questions because it was frustrating how I kept getting muted because I couldn't, and you can't unmute from here.
Right.
And we obviously are on a calendar year. We've done what we have spent so far towards what I'd call holistic marketing is us and the Sky Valley Timeshares have done an ad in Georgia Golf and Travel magazine. So that's going to run here in the late spring. They've delayed that just because of the COVID-19.
Sure.
And then the other thing is we joined a year ago, so we just renewed our position on the Georgia Golf Trail, which I think that was $2,000. The ad was about $2,500. So we've spent $4,500 in what I would call direct marketing. We will take that, and we had normally allocated $7,000, and we'll look at that and see where we are. Obviously, with COVID-19, the impact to our business model is significant.
Sure.
And, and I don't know, Bob, are we going to use these marketing funds on like the city fiscal year of, I take it September 30?
No, our fiscal year is a calendar year as well.
Okay. So, so anyway, we do have some funds, but they're limited funds.
Sure.
We will address that and give you some, insight. I think Holly and Ed and probably Bill, and I don't know about you, Bob, have seen what we've done through the Georgia Golf Trail. We've had unbelievably good, positive articles about Sky Valley, which I can forward those. Have you
Yes.
seen?
I believe I've seen at least one of them, and I was very impressed.
Yeah, they've done an excellent job. They quote unquote put us on the map. So we're happy with that. Doug Hollingsworth, the principal there, has been very helpful for us in a lot of different ways, getting Sky Valley out there. So our marching orders, I think you want from us, are goals that we're looking at in marketing. Second, what we could be looking at is funds. Obviously, if there's carryover funds, we're part of that three-way, and we'd be proponents of just, taking that money forward into our campaign this year. And we would like to get an idea of what our annual plan is. If you had where you think this committee is going to go with our monies. I take it in the 6 months you've been around, we probably have some ideas. Do you have any ballpark, amounts or ballpark what you think we need to effectively start this thing?
Well, to answer that directly, no, because in looking at this budget that I have before me, the three-way was $14,000 in the hole, which means we don't have any money. The two-way is we've got $6,500, which isn't a whole lot, but I did not go point by point by point by point and say, hey, did this work? How much did this cost? Should we go ahead and spend it? So I think what we're looking for at this point is what are you able to do? Well, we're not asking anybody to do anything they can't do. We know this is a difficult time for everybody with the COVID-19 thing, but we're not going to be able to accomplish a whole lot with $6,500. And yet, if that's all we have, then that's what we'll do. You know, we can't say, as I said earlier, let's put a $50,000 marketing budget together that we can't accomplish, and then that would have been a lot of time wasted just even coming up with that plan. So it's a little bit which comes first, the horse or the cart or the chicken or the egg. We've got 6,500. If you've got some leftover in your budget that you know that can be put into, and not till you take a look at this, so you may look at this budget and say, oh, I remember we did that and we got a good response from that one. So if we can afford it, let's do that one again. We may have to piecemeal this one as opposed to broad stroke it and just say, hey, let's do this and this and this and this. And hopefully we have enough money, and then let's see what comes back. We may have to look at it and say, we know this one worked, so let's do that one again. And we know that one didn't bring us all that much, so let's not do that one again. And you folks have background that I don't have. I wasn't here. So I think some of this is like, let's put a little bit of the plan together as we go. Try to get through 2019 with what fits your budget, and then we could go for the year after and say, okay, now we got some more money, we got this thing rolling. So again, I think it's what can you do money-wise? What would we like to accomplish goal-wise? And then once everybody gets the budget copies, let's pick at it and pick the ones we know worked and throw ones the way that we got nothing for.
So kind of the timing is, after this COVID thing, kind of winds down, we need to jumpstart some activity back to the valley, right? So some of the short-term marketing you're talking about maybe should be aimed in that direction. But then an overall annual plan for 2021 probably needs to be, at least in draft form, and put in front of the organizations for their budget process.
Right. Howard, when do you make decisions on the following fiscal year? When would you make decisions on 21?
The club is on a calendar year, so we start our budget process in November and December for the next year.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time to get on your budget for 21.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
what about Ed? What about you? What's your POA timeline for 21?
Our budget is set. It was set last November, and we'll begin the process again coming up this summer as we can get through this COVID-19 and how it affects all of our activities. What with Saturday morning breakfasts, 4th of July activities, any fall activities, the election, hosting of the election, comments and debate next fall. We do have some extra funds, but we'll have to be judicious in how we look at it.
Of course.
And I believe totally that a 2-year plan is in essence here. We need to look at how these goals extend into the ones that are worthwhile and can be measured, can be carried on into 2021.
I agree that to look at this year. It's such a truncated year with all the concerns we have. We need to look at that and then like an annual plan for the next calendar year. One question I have, Bob, you were saying, I guess we're going to get some type of accounting on why we're $14,000 in the hole on the one. Are we 6,500 positive on the two-way? Is that what?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And that's something, Ella, you're going to be sending out
I
to
am,
us?
yes, uh-huh.
All right, thank you.
So shall we leave a next meeting date in abeyance until we get some correspondence going back and forth? Or should we set one out for about a month from now, just so we've got a deadline for which we can work toward? What do you think?
I'm in favor of leaving it open right now, but certainly we need to meet within a month.
Okay.
Well,
Howard?
and I'd like,
Yeah.
I guess I would rather maybe, circulate a time and let's have a meeting we can put on our calendars. And that keeps us a discipline. We will meet and do things,
Right.
and we can plan around it.
I'm more of your line of thought, Howard. I would say put a calendar date on for about a month from now. That'll give us enough time to get our dollars lined up, our ideas lined up, talk to our constituents and our friends, maybe send some emails back and forth. So by the time we actually sit in front of each other the next time, we'll already have the documentation background to go forward with discussions instead of just initiating the discussion. We feel good about putting a date on a calendar.
I think a month is as long as we'd want to be. We might want to
Yeah.
accelerate that, pull that back in maybe to, 3 weeks or so.
We
Okay.
can do a tentative date as May 14th is actually a month. That gives us 4 weeks exactly.
Okay. So is a month right for you folks, or should we do 3 weeks?
A month is great. Month works fine.
Okay. Howard, you already said a month, so I'm going to assume that's still,
Howard's muted again.
huh?
Howard is muted again.
Okay.
What's it, I don't know why it keeps doing that. That's crazy, because I'm not touching a thing, I promise.
Now he's unmuted.
Okay.
Why don't we just go ahead and make it a month? So
Okay.
Ella, if you want to go ahead,
Okay.
was it May 14th?
May 14th is a tentative date. Yes, that's 1 month from today. It's 4 weeks.
Okay, we'll do it at 10 o'clock. Is that good for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, May 14th, 10 o'clock. But again, before that time, please, let's get emails going and burning up the internet with the emails so that when we actually sit down, we're not discovering, we're actually discussing. All right?
Sounds fine.
All right.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Well, I'm
That's good.
my portion. I thank you for deciding to join the committee and for your participation in this meeting. And hopefully we'll make great leaps and bounds, whatever that means in our current health situations. And then we get the ball rolling so that the next several years will be stellar in promoting Sky Valley. All right.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Thank you very much. And you all stay safe.
As well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right.